Welcome to another episode, Gonzaga Nation, SI on the Gonzaga Nation Media Network. Today's guest, someone who knows the Gonzaga program about as well as anybody that doesn't live in Spokane. He has been a rival coach, he has been an assistant coach, and he's been connected to the program in many ways. Former assistant coach, Ray Giacoletti, one of my good friends. Coach, how's life?
Well, life, Dan, is good. I've been retired now for 2 months, and so I feel a little bit of some anxiety. Everybody just kind of thinks that you retire, and again, we're trying to figure it out. But my wife and I, we leave in 2 weeks, and we're going to. We bought a place in Florida for the winter. And so there's a little bit of like going away to college for the first time. Excited, but not really sure what to expect. And we'll just kind of roll with it as we go.
So you've been connected with a college program for quite some time. I know you and I first connected when you were recruiting me when you were at University of Washington. What you mentioned the anxiety, but what exactly are the feelings not like helping freshmen get into a routine for the first time on campus? What's it like not talking to the upperclassmen about setting an example as leaders and kind of doing your own thing?
It's a little bit different. SLU here, St. Louis University, started classes last Tuesday, and I'm still lifting 3 days a week in the mornings down at SLU. They've been kind enough to allow me to do that before we go to Florida. And so I saw all the new students moving in and those kinds of things. But yeah, a little bit different. I did it 34 years, 14 as a head coach, 20 as an assistant. And I kind of feel like watching my parents, however many years ago was, when they kind of were making that transition. So, those are the things I will miss. The things I won't miss is dealing with this transfer portal and NIL and all the other things that are seem to be ruining the game of college basketball now today.
Well, we'll talk about some of your favorite experiences and maybe the good memories in a bit. But the NIL and the transfer portal, you started to touch on it there. You and I've had off the record conversations when you were an assistant coach about some concerns about it. Now that you're out of coaching, are those concerns coming to fruition? Are they making things more challenging for coaches? Are they tainting the game? What are you seeing?
This spring, we saw things that never seen in 34 years. And I got no problem talking about it now. We had low-level agents calling our office or their parents and basically wanting to know what the NIL number was for them. This would be maybe on a Wednesday, and we need a number by Friday or they're going to the transfer portal. So you got blackmail, you got anything you want to call it. People that shouldn't be involved with the sport are involved with the sport, trying to find ways to make money. And it's got nothing to do with what's best for the individual. It's all about each agent, hanger-oner, parent trying to make money immediately. But it's our society today. That's exactly what. It's not about working hard and having a goal and a plan. It's everybody wants to get paid today, immediately.
I've thought for a number of years that college athletes should get paid. And looking back to my time, I wish I could have been paid, but obviously those weren't the rules then. And I felt that there should be a staggered system. Freshmen make a certain amount, sophomore, all the way up to seniors. If you have a team accomplishment, like you win your league or the conference title, you advance in the NCAA tournament, each player gets a bonus, no different than a coach. There can be, individual player bonuses, but they should be tied to all league voted on by coaches, not like points per game. What would your thought be on a system like that to pay players where you could kind of regulate it almost like a salary cap?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different and really good ideas how you could make it work. it's just basically the Wild West right now. You can do whatever you want. You know, you can say whatever you want. Money, who to get involved. There's zero rules. The NCAA has no control, and they know they have no control. I'll give you an example. This last week, I saw 3 different programs, double transfers. You know, they allowed a couple years ago, you can have 1 transfer and then you have to sit. That's gone out the window. They've allowed all those transfers. They have no juice. And so there are no rules right now. It's just do whatever you feel best. Coaches can go out and find money for the players. We need a set of parameters and a set of rules that everybody's going to abide by to make it work. And right now, they think they're going to go back and fix it. You're not going to fix it. It's too far gone. They're on a short rope. Why do these, you know, colleges and universities need the NCAA?
Still there, Coach?
Yeah, I lost you there for a second, but yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, Christian, our editor, can kind of fix that little stretch where we lost you for a second. You know, you're a coach that's had experience at what I would say many different levels. You know, people are kind of enamored with this word Power 5 conference right now. You were at Washington as an assistant. You were a head coach at Utah, who's in the Pac-12 now. At the time, I don't know if it was the WAC or the Mountain West, but it's that level. Gonzaga breaks the mold. They're an elite program, even though they're not in one of those. The Atlantic 10, where you've been most recently with St. Louis, is a really good conference, but it's underknown across the country. What's the biggest difference that you see in people's perception of levels? Because I think too many times people get misconstrued by the levels in not knowing how good a program is or how well supported a program is.
Levels is where can you be successful and where can you help a team be successful before we even get into academics. But you know, academics got nothing to do with this anymore. People can say all they want, but you know, where can you be successful? You played in the NBA 7-8 years. You know, you can come from anywhere in this planet. You can be the smallest speck somewhere on this world, and they're going to find you. I firmly believe that. So many of these transfers today think the grass is going to be greener, and they're wrong. You need to be able to have a place where you have a chance to make your team successful, and you can play a part in that. Anything else is just, it doesn't make sense. And you can go through that transfer portal and see how many good decisions and how many poor decisions. And I bet it's 75% poor decisions were made, 25% good decisions were made. And that's probably being on the high side of things. And then how many different people had their hands involved with that? We had a little point guard we have at St. Louis this year, led the country in assists, Ray Giacoletti. And I know for a fact there was college assistant coaches started calling him in January of this year. So, and he's awesome. He knows that he's a St. Louis kid. St. Louis University, maybe their best team in 30 years this year, were old. They got a chance to it'll be a top 25 preseason. But he had an understanding of what he has here and opportunities to have, and the majority of them, they don't have the young man's best interests in mind.
Yeah, I've called a number of games at St. Louis over the years. I know you've been a part of that program in a couple different capacities. I think when you look at their roster from an outsider's perspective, they do have a chance to have a special year. But right now, a lot of times for that program that's kind of been kind of in the mix, but haven't broken through, you need to have a special run, and then guys have to buy in to keep it going. That's one thing Gonzaga has done. They had a special run, and then they were able to keep it going. What does St. Louis have to do to keep it going in your eyes?
I think that's a hard question. I think they are going to be good this year, and they are going to have a special year. But the top probably 4 to 6 players, this will be their last year. With COVID, they're going to be old. You need to have the year first, and just as you said, then build upon that to try to sustain it. And you know, you and I both know when you use Gonzaga as an example, it's a bad example. There's not another place in the country that's done what they've done. And we're talking about 25 years of no slip ups. It's so when people, I used to love it when, you know, the AD I was working for, we talk about Gonzaga. It's like, Gonzaga was the wrong one to talk about. You know, that's Haley's comment. Let's talk about, you know, nuts and bolts. If you want to talk about Gonzaga, we can talk about, you know, how they travel and, you know, they never get on a commercial flight and all the other things that have helped sustain that program over 25 years. But, you know, that's something that, in my opinion, will never happen again in any other sport.
Yeah, I've been asked that question by multiple coaches and even athletic directors during my broadcast prep at shoot-arounds and games and such, and you're right with that. But you've had a different seat to see Gonzaga from a opponent's recruiting perspective when you were at Washington, probably to an extent when you were at Eastern Washington and Utah. Then you were on the inside as an assistant coach there. What is it? Because I get to ask this question every time, all the time. But for you, as someone who's seen it from different places as well, can you give us what exactly it is about Gonzaga in as quick of synopsis as you can? Because I know it's not easy.
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer. You know, I tried to duplicate it when I left Gonzaga at Drake. And even though I had known those guys since '93, and then was a part of it for 6 years. I think the biggest thing is Mark Few. His balance, demeanor, him being there the entire duration, that's the very first thing. And then what the ability that he's been able to have on each and impact on each one of those teams to believe you can compete at that highest level to win a national championship. You know, he's that program over 25 years had assistants there for a long period of time. You know, Tommy Lloyd just obviously left for Arizona, but was there for a number of years. Leon Rice, Bill Greer, that I think something else to add to it. The one other thing I'll say is Gonzaga understood that they needed to do something different each year, the administration, the school, to keep pouring into that program. And literally, like the 6 years I was there, I would remember the Mike Roth, the AD, and the president talking about what do we need to do for this coming year. And that's something I've never seen before at another university. But if I knew, used to be the $1 million question. It's the $100 million question now, how they've been able to do it. But Mark Few is number one of just his calm demeanor, his belief, and how he's able to get each group to believe in that over this, 23-4-year run.
I agree with a lot of that because, yeah, his belief of how good a team can be and then getting guys to believe, even maybe, and I hate to say a couple down years, but there were a couple years where it looked like that NCAA streak might end. But he got guys to understand, buy into roles, believe that, hey, if we do this, and if you play your role, we're going to be fine in the end. And it's come to fruition nearly every single time. and they're knocking on the doorstep of a Final Four, or excuse me, and they're knocking on a doorstep of a national title, which I think will happen at some point. How has he improved as a coach? Because I remember when I was a redshirt and then played for him for 2 years, we had certain things that they do, and I've seen him grow and improve as a coach. And this is not a knock on him in any way when I played for him. I think the evolution of him as a coach has been unbelievable. What have you seen from that?
I think the first thing is when you do have success, he's sustained who he is. He never got bigger than the program. He's one of the most humble men I've ever been around. That goes with he is a husband, father, and his faith. I think that's played a big part of it. But the other piece of it was the defensive end of the floor. I think he's improved drastically. I know my first year there, maybe the first 2 years there, there were times we kind of, behind closed doors or in the locker room or something, with just he and I. And I'm not saying I had anything to do with it, but would say how much I thought over from that period of time, they are an elite defensive team here the last 10 years. Would you agree with that? I know you were.
I would agree.
The defensive end of the floor as much as anybody.
I do agree with that, and I do think you had a lot to do with that. I know Coach Billy Greer.
I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah. He did, but unfortunately, he will tell me this every time I see him. He couldn't get me to do what he was coaching me to do for whatever reason on that end of the floor. But I think you're right. Without putting words in your mouth, you had a big part to do with that. And they've built on a lot of the principles that you tried to instill. Let me ask you this: with your new retirement, and you've got time to go out and kind of find a hobby. Most coaches don't have time for a hobby. Coach Few fishes when he can. Billy Greer would go play golf. I've talked to different coaches that try when they get a moment to do different things. What is the one hobby you're looking forward to kind of diving into now that you've got some free time?
Two things. So fishing and golf. You just hit the two. So when we get down to Florida, we bought a place about 3 years ago, and fishing's the first thing. I was talking to Mark Few yesterday about it. I just got back from a fishing trip in Wisconsin, and I'll go back a little bit. So a month into retirement, it was great the first month. And then I was bored. I would go work out every morning, try to do a chore around the house, and then 1 o'clock would come, and I'm like, now what? What do you do? I mean, we just have been so used to working, for the last 34 years, and I never played golf. I never had hobbies. Going out in the garage and waxing the car used to be my way of getting away from things. But so those are two things. My wife and I, she's got us joining a club down there, I guess. And now if you'd see me swing a golf club, it's not real pretty. So I'm gonna need some help there. At least with fishing, I kind of grew up with it, and but saltwater fishing is a whole different, another element. But those two things, I think we'll try to see if we can figure out a little bit and have fun with.
Back to the coaching side of things, and you spending so much time as an assistant and a head coach of having to game plan your team, your opponent, but also I'm sure to a certain extent thinking about what the opposing coach is going to do. Who's the best tactician that you've ever had to go up against as an opposing coach?
Well, that's a really, really good question. Mark Few's got to be right there. The 4 years we were at Eastern Washington, we had some great battles with Gonzaga. So he would be at the top of the list. I think there's guys that nobody had ever heard of. And I got a mental block right now. The head coach at St. Bonaventure would be one of the other ones.
I called a game of theirs a couple of years ago, and the action that they ran was awesome.
Mark Schmidt.
Yes.
Somebody else would be the old timer at Utah State. He's going to be pissed off now. I got another mental block.
Stu Morrill.
Stu Morrill. Those two guys after Mark. Yeah, everybody can say the obvious, but you know, as you well know, when you go and watch a practice and then you do a game, you can kind of see behind the curtain a little bit. And those are two guys that aren't household word names, that are high level coaches and have gotten it done in places that weren't the most easiest places to get done. Unfortunately, I think moving forward, it's going to get harder and harder. You got to have players, and you got to be able to keep players over a period of time. In the way the rules work today, I don't know if you can get it done at a low level or a mid-major, because as soon as you have somebody that's good enough as a freshman or sophomore, they're gone. They're going to be pilfered from your campus, and so it's really going to make it difficult for you know, everybody talks about, well, it's for the players, but these younger coaches coming up now, how to develop their coaching skills and how to have sustainability to be able to go from a smaller program to a bigger program. I don't know if it's going to happen, because I just don't think it's feasible the way the rules are today.
That's a good point. And for Gonzaga fans and people that follow the WCC, that right there is kind of what Todd Golden is going to have to go through in a nutshell, going from San Francisco to Florida, which I can only imagine his budget is increased exponentially, the pressures and all the things that he has to deal with. So, you know, I think he's a tremendous young coach, but he's going to have some of those things to work through. You just mentioned, you talked a little bit about retirement, but you're not fully in retirement, because you and I talked a couple months back, and you're helping some college teams take overseas tours. You know, that's something the NCAA allows every 4 years, but it seems as though when you look online and you follow in social media with different programs, it seems like almost half of college basketball has been overseas somewhere with a foreign tour this year. Tell us a little bit about what a foreign tour entails and why teams do it, and then what your role is with the company that you're working with.
Yeah, so I'm working with a company called World Strides, and World Strides is the largest provider in educational travel. 900 people work for World Strides. So many of these companies went under during COVID because they're little mom and pop shops. World Strides, right before COVID, added a sports division, and so Vanderbilt and St. Louis University went with World Strides just a couple weeks ago. To Spain and Italy. So the advantages are you get 10 days of practice before you go. And it's not as big a deal today as it once was, because you got these kids for 8 weeks in the summer anyway. But maybe more importantly is you take a trip for 10 days and you get a chance to bond. You get a chance to, you know, like SLU last week did everything from, they started in Madrid. Well, St. Louis University's sister campus is in Madrid, just like Gonzaga's sister campus is in Florence. They had a chance to see that, and we're a part of that Spanish culture. 6 days in Italy to see the Vatican and you know, Leaning Tower of Pisa, the Colosseum. And you get that group together, and you start to bond maybe a little bit earlier in the year. So it helps maybe start your season on a positive, upbeat, you know, frame of mind. So I've been on probably 5 trips in 34 years. Each one was an amazing experience, something truly that those young men will remember the rest of their lives. And I think you're right. There was so many teams. I had counted almost 50 Division I teams went this summer. The rest of them are going next summer because I'm right in the midst of talking to those people right now to try to get them a part of World Strides to take their trip. But yeah, I think for so many different reasons, basketball, educationally, a lot of these young men never been out of the United States, let alone to places like Spain and Italy.
Well, it sounds like there's a change in college athletics and basketball, and this is one of those that the programs that are the quote haves are going to take advantage of to be able to distance themselves even more from the have-nots in providing opportunities for players. Coach, last question before I let you leave. You spent time obviously as a coach, you did a little bit of time as a broadcaster. Give us your analyst broadcaster outlook on the upcoming basketball season. I know you keep a close pulse on it. You talk to coaches all the time. Who's going to win the Final Four?
Well, that's a hard question. I mean, I'm hoping Gonzaga can, they have probably as good a chance as anybody this year to win a national championship, and not to put any more pressure on Fuey or the team, but I really, it's a big learning steps. I've never been there, so I guess I would think it's been a great learning opportunity of already going twice to be able to have that opportunity this year. But to be honest with you, with all the transfers that took place, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm pulling for Gonzaga and wish the best for them, but who knows how the transfer thing is going to shake out. I don't think really anybody knows how that's going to work out. What people don't realize sometimes, you and I could be sitting in a locker room as players. You're getting $150,000 NIL. I'm getting 25. Now we got to coexist in a locker room on the floor as human beings. Like, there's a lot of things that are going to have a direct impact on college basketball this year, other than just as it was or as it has been for the last 100 years, of just trying to get people to buy into winning. Like, winning is the most important thing. That's gone by the wayside along the way. So it's harder and harder, in my opinion, today to get people to buy into winning and how important winning is.
And if you win, you distance yourselves in a lot of different ways. Even if you're an NBA prospect, if you win, you get your kind of aura or the outlook about your game and your prospects enhanced by being from a winning program, as opposed to putting up numbers on a bad losing program. Coach, I really appreciate the time. We'll have to do this again sometime. I know now that you're not going to be preparing scouting reports till 1 a.m. in the morning, which I know you do because you're as detailed as they come. We'll have to make you a regular guest on the podcast because you've always got awesome insight.
Well, if there's you ever get down to Santa Rosa Beach, it's in between Destin and Panama City. You and your family are always welcome. We always got space, but appreciate you. You're one of my favorites, Dan, and it's been fun to watch you grow as first knew you as a junior in high school. We'll watch you to the man you become today, great husband, father. So it's an honor for me to be talking to you this Sunday morning.
Awesome. Thanks again, Coach.